What are Hearts getting in new signing Christian Borchgrevink? What is his weakness and why might that not matter? And is his injury history a concern? To answer that and more, I spoke to former Scottish footballer David Weatherston, who finished his career out in Norway and has lived there since. He keeps a close eye on the game, both sides of the North Sea, and I spoke to him about Hearts' new right back. He gave us the inside track on one of Hearts' 6 summer signings so far. Before we get to that, Hearts Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. As promised, here's what to expect from Hearts' new right back. Let's go back to a time in the recent past where I had a little bit more hair, and I started by asking David for the correct pronunciation.
Actually, one of the it looks much more difficult than it is. It sounds as it reads. So it's Borchgrevink. Nothing more complicated than that.
Okay.
When I'm talking about him with other people, I would say Borch, just to shorten it for easiness. But I've never heard them use that as in professional speak.
Right, okay.
So yeah, Borchgrevink.
So you don't know if there's any nickname there or anything that is kind of shortened?
Borch would be is what people would call him, like in like forums or whatever. But
right,
yeah,
if
if it's said, I've always just heard Borchgrevink in commentary.
He is a 26-year-old Norwegian right back who signed a 3-year deal at Tynecastle. He signs from Vålerenga. What sort of club and team is it that he's coming from in Norway?
One of the biggest. Vålerenga just promoted from the first division in the winter there, which was a huge surprise that they were down there. They are the biggest club in Oslo, which is obviously the capital city. Traditionally, one of the biggest clubs in Norway, one of the best supported, and yeah, he's been a player that's come through the system there and been there for many years. So a player used to a team that has a good following, a very loud support in Oslo, and someone who I think definitely won't be intimidated by sort of bigger supports.
You said it came through the youth system there. What sort of reputation does the youth system have there in Norway?
I mean, it's pretty much everything in Norwegian football. Pretty much all the players have got to come through the youth system here. There's a huge number of Norwegians that play in the top league. I think when you compare it to Scottish football, the big difference in the top league in terms of the percentage of Norwegians who are playing in the first teams and starting games regularly. As for Vålerenga, a very decent reputation, probably the best youth team in Oslo traditionally, and they have produced a fair number of players who have come through. Most recently, there was a player who just left to sign for Celta Vigo in the winter there. So yeah, they've got a pretty good reputation, and it's always a decent platform for players to break through and play first team football.
So what you're saying, I mean, that's actually been a bit of a debate back here in Scotland. I'm sure you've noticed Hearts here to sort of be, after years of not doing enough to bring through youth players, seem to be moving in the right direction now. So you saying that's an important thing across the board in Norway for clubs to have a good youth system?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think what we have here as well is the second teams in the professional or in the pyramid system, which is something that obviously there's huge debate in Scotland, and it's something that helps players get games against men, adults, when they're 16, 17, and I think that's probably something that's helped some of the youth players take the step. But yeah, it's just they have spent a lot of money, I think, on youth football in Norway and making sure that players have a pathway to come up to first teams, and I think that the pressure is probably less. Probably definitely in the top tier. Obviously, there's 16 teams in the top tier here, which makes it a little bit easier to probably bed in players without the threat of relegation as well. And I think for a team like Vålerenga, just thinking back for the last sort of 6-7 years I've been watching Norwegian football, just countless young players coming in and getting chances. And even now, when I look at the team now, there's quite a few guys that have come through their system and are important players for them.
How have they started this season?
They started okay. I think they've played about 10 games. But the last kind of 4 or 5 weeks, they've dropped away a bit, and they're sitting, I think, just above relegation now. Their captain got a bad injury, and he's a big miss for them. So yeah, they're sitting down in 12th. Borchgrevink barely played. I think that's because his contract was running out, and the future. They obviously knew his future was not going to be at Vålerenga, so he's barely played. And I think they've got a decent team. I don't think they'll get relegated. But coming back up from the first division, it probably wasn't going to be a season where they push for the top, but they have to build to get back there, because they are a team that's won the league before, not that long ago, and they have to get back up to where they should be, because they are one of the top 4 or 5 clubs financially in Norway.
I was going to ask you how he had got on, but you'd said that he's not really played. I think he might have started the season with a slight injury as well. But how would you characterise what kind of player he is?
I think he's a player who, I think 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said is going to big things. He kind of broke through around 2020, around COVID time. He really broke into the team, and he was outstanding. He's a right back, basically a traditional kind of right back, gets down the outside, puts in crosses, kind of runs all day, backs up a winger. He had an unbelievable relationship. I don't know if you know Aaron Dinham. He's a Norwegian international. Him and Aaron Dinham used to play on the right-hand side for Vålerenga back in 2020, 2021, and the two of them were just unbelievable together. So if he's got a right winger who's left-footed that goes inside, he could be a brilliant asset for Borchgrevink, who gets down that outside and puts lovely crosses in. He's got a really nice right foot, both passing and crossing. Is probably a strong point for him. But yeah, he's a strong right back, good strong runner, not quick. I'd say one of his weaknesses is he's not lightning quick. He's quite one-paced, but a strong runner that can run all day, and someone that gives everything for his team as well. He was a captain for Vålerenga, and definitely a leader in that team, an important part of the team for many years. And that was despite what was a really, really bad injury he picked up, which I think is the main reason why he's still at Vålerenga after so many years.
You mentioned his maybe not being the quickest player there. One of the things that was pointed out, Tom Irving does some scouting for us, and he said that he can cross from different areas of the pitch. He can cross from deep. He doesn't need to drive forward or get to the byline to put crosses in. Does that match up with what you've seen him?
Yeah, I think it's something that he's added more as time's gone on. I think when he was young, he would overlap constantly. He'd just constantly overlap. Aaron Dinham would come inside. He was a cracking little player with a great left foot. He would come inside, Borchgrevink would go on the outside, and they would play 1-2s, and he would always be on the outside. But yeah, I think something he's definitely added is crosses from deep, coming inside and playing 1-2s and crossing from different areas. He hit pretty much all the corners for Vålerenga as well from the far side, so in swingers. But yeah, definitely, I think it's something he's got better at as time's gone on. Is the crosses from deep. He does have a really nice pick out from those areas. Whether that is because he doesn't want to go on the outside as much as he used to because of his injuries, and that's definitely something that potentially is a worry for Hearts, is the injury record. But I still think there's definitely a good enough player in there, and he played the whole season last season, which is obviously something that you look at and say, okay, he's back from his injury. his injury problems, and he's proved that he can play a full season. I think he played 29 out of 30 games, just a suspension kept him out of 1 game. So yeah, I think if he can get back to the level he was at in 2021, or the potential he had there, and show what he can do, I think there's definitely a player there who can take what I think it's a step up definitely to Hearts from Vålerenga. But yeah, if he can do that, then it could prove to be a decent asset for the right back.
Hearts announced the signing when he was injured as well. The optics weren't great, but it was, as I said earlier, it was a slight injury, and it was unrelated to the one that kept him out for 18 months. We've spoken a bit there about going forward, and I think that was something that showed up quite a lot in the stuff that Tom did. But you were saying there, he's quite I mean, first and foremost, you want your defenders to be good defenders, but you say he's quite a solid defensive right back as well.
Yeah, he's quite good 1v1 tackling. I'd say that's something he's decent at. Not extremely aggressive, but he's quite happy to put a foot in. He likes getting to the ball first when it's played into wingers. I do worry about him against pace. I think against pace he could be got at. It's probably not something that is going to be a huge problem in Scotland. Like, there's not like any extremely quick wingers everywhere, but it's definitely something that I think he could be a bit vulnerable against. If Hearts are playing a high line and he's got to chase back, but he's an extremely willing player. Like, he'll not stop. He won't give up. He'll never give up. And I do think that his attacking is the most important part of his game, and something that he made his reputation on. But I think defensively he's solid enough, and I think he's definitely got better as well as he's got older, which is to be expected, I think.
And you kind of mentioned his leadership qualities there. Is there anything else you've managed to sort of glean about his character or the type of person that he is?
I mean, I think what was quite obvious is that in 2023, Vålerenga got relegated, and he missed a good chunk of that season as well. It was so the injury was a bad knee injury, and then when he came back, he got the same injury again. So that was kind of a double injury. He did get a knee injury this year, but it wasn't the same problem. So hopefully he's over that. But yeah, when he came back in 2023, he couldn't save him from relegation, and he kind of took it upon himself to be the spokesperson for the team. The fans were understandably unhappy. Vålerenga are not supposed to get relegated. They're a huge club. They have a big following, and they get sort of 14, 15, 16,000 fans at home games. And he took it upon himself to go about the fans after it happened and stand in front of them and talk to them and basically apologise for them. And I think at that point he could have left the club, but he decided to sign an extra contract and played every game in the Obos League and to get them back promoted. And I think that shows you what kind of person he is. He wanted to do that for his club. I mean, he supports the club and wanted them to get back promoted, and I think that shows that kind of strength of character that not a lot of footballers would do that. I think a lot of footballers would kind of think for themselves and think, I don't want to play in the second tier. But yeah, he stood by the club, and they stood by him, of course, during his injury time, but he stood by them and helped them get promoted. He had a really good season last year in the Obos League as well, which I think was important for him to get a full season after his injuries and get back to the levels he was playing at.
And just before we move on to Claudio Braga, it's fair to say you were a wee bit sceptical, or maybe not sceptical, but you were certainly a little bit surprised by the Khartoum signing. Is it fair to say that you see this one kind of makes a bit more sense?
Yeah, I think for him, it makes more sense. It seemed like it was the right thing for him to move on. His contract was out. Probably his value in terms of where he was 5 years ago is probably not as high. I think if it had happened 5 years ago, I would have said this is really exciting, super exciting for Hearts. Here's a player who'd go in places and has shown that he's going to be maybe Norway's next right back. But I think at this point he's shown that he can get his career back on track. He's a right back who can do both sides of the game, and I think it was probably the right time for him to move on. I don't think Vålerenga probably not going to get to where he wants to get to, and at 26, he's going to have to take the step. And I think for him, it's a really, really good move. I don't think he could have got a better move than Hearts at this time. I don't think his stock is probably as high as it was back then. But yeah, I think if it all works out for him, it could be really good for him and for Hearts.